All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for the first Friday e-call with K-State Research and Extension. The purpose of the e-call is to increase the local community's knowledge of the experts, the education, and the economic resources that are available to help them and the businesses that they love and the communities who love them. As always, the call is being recorded, and you will get a link to the website when it's posted and a copy of Lou's PowerPoint deck. I would very much like to know if this presentation is helpful to you, and I'll share this with Lou afterwards. So at the end of the call, there's going to be 3 questions, and I'd like you to be thinking about this as you're watching. Did you learn something today that you can use immediately? How many people will you forward the information to? And what did you learn today that was most helpful to you? And with that, I will turn it over to Chang Lu, and we call him Lou. And Lou is with the Global Exporting with the Department of Commerce, and he will tell us about discovering new markets. Thank you, Lou.
Great, thank you so much. Thank you for the invitation. And you should have told me you're going to call me an expert so I can record it and play it to my wife and my mom, and they probably won't believe you. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for having me today. My name is Chan Lu. I work for the Kansas Department of Commerce under the International Division. And there are 3 things we do. First is export promotion to promote Kansas-made goods and products overseas. Second one is foreign direct investment attraction, is to get foreign companies to move into Kansas to establish operations here. And that can be manufacturing, that can be headquarter, office support, distribution, anything they need. The goal for that one is to create job opportunities. And the third one is a new division we put together. It's called Global Resources. I know there are many of you, and I think there's nothing better on a Friday morning to talk about export, all the data, all the trends. And I don't want to make it boring. So if you want to put in the chat, if there's anything specific you would like to hear, I will be more than happy to focus on that portion. And I just have to give a shout out to my colleague, Suzanne. Suzanne's from the Kansas Department of Agriculture, and she worked closely with companies on the export front as well. All right, now I'm going to share my presentation. Like Nancy mentioned earlier, this presentation is available for you, so you don't have to take screenshots or type everything down. When we finish this, I know Nancy has 3 questions for you already, but if you forgot everything I said, just remember we exist. Feel free to reach out to us, and we may have some free money available to help you or your client to conduct export related activities. All right, now I'm going to share my screen. Okay, I hope everybody can see it. It worked pretty well earlier. Okay, well, can everybody see it? Nancy, you can see it?
We're
Okay,
not
awesome.
seeing the presentation version yet.
You're not seeing the presentation
Or
version.
maybe we're seeing the wrong screen, but
Okay, good.
there you go. Now it looks
All right.
great.
Awesome. Okay, so each of these pictures, we're trying to demonstrate one thing. So this is a standard deck we use. And you can see here, we're trying to focus on quality of life, our track record, our partnership with communities, recent success. And here's my contact info. Well, my name, my contact information is listed at the end. And here are the 3 sites, the three pillars I talked about earlier: foreign direct investment attraction, export promotion, and then global resources. These 3 is really what the international division covers. And today, I think the focus is more on the export promotion side and then global resources. I was told, I don't have to say too much on the FDI side, but I think just for kick and giggles, I'll say a few things in the beginning. We can get it out of here. Um, so, so inbound investment is very important to Kansas. Through inbound investment, that means foreign companies investing in Kansas. It supports quite a bit of jobs in our state. Um, and there are many companies around you. You probably did not realize it's actually owned by a foreign company where they're from a different country. It's quite interesting to learn a company, you think it's just from next door. It's actually from Japan maybe or from Europe. It's very interesting and it's a very important part of our daily work. So we talk to lots of foreign companies. We attend trade shows. We utilize the U.S. consulate, U.S. embassies overseas. And our goal is to attract companies to come to Kansas. Again, the end goal is to create jobs here. And we do that through, we have many interesting incentive programs. And I also sometimes I work on domestic projects, retention, expansion, attraction. So if we have companies here, if you want to hear what are some of the incentive programs available to help you expand your business, I can cover that too. Just put in the chat. I'll be happy to, very, very briefly talk about some of the incentive programs in terms of, for example, tax rebate, tax refund, income tax credit, and sometimes training dollar, and that's direct cash. So you're getting all this today. You got your money worth. All right, now let's move on to the next side. Let's talk about export. Why export? I think that's, the question is silly, but that's actually a problem we encounter. Lots of companies we talk to, they would just tell us, we're happy with the U.S. market. We're happy with the workload we have right now. We don't really want to expand, or I don't have enough people. But the market is really big. It's not just the U.S. 96% of the market exists outside of the U.S. So think about all the potentials you have. But one thing I do like to caution companies, especially new companies, new startups, export is not it's not a spontaneous thing. It can be a expensive activity. So you will have to dedicate some of your resources, either financial resources or human resources, to focus on this if you want to make it successful. But if your end goal is just to make one sale here, one sale there, then that doesn't really matter. But if you want to grow it into a important component of your operation, then yes, it will require some dedication. There are many companies in Kansas has been very successful at doing this. In 2023, this is our record high in Kansas history. Our export reached $14.1 billion. The biggest export commodity is aviation. So that's your aircraft, parts, and engine. And second one is, Suzanne will be happy to hear, is edible meat. And then from there down will be, your usual suspect, industrial machinery, electric machinery, and the probably cereal. So that's your soybean, sorghum, all of the egg commodities. And our top country export market, if you can guess, that most likely Canada or Mexico. It's just because they're so close to us, and also the USMCA. And after Canada, Mexico, third place is typically between China or Japan. And then, probably Germany, France, Australia, Brazil, that will take the 10 spots. And sometimes people are surprised that Brazil is on the list. Brazil is actually a big buyer of our egg product. and that includes both equipment and commodities. And they have a pretty big aviation industry. Sometimes when you travel, on a regional airline, you may be on a ERJ, that's the Embraer regional jet, and that's made in Brazil. And a lot of the parts on there are supplied by us. So that's why Brazil has been on top of the list. Anyway, 2023 is a record high for us in terms of exporting. I don't have 2023 number on exporters. I'll try to get that number when it's available. But in 2022, we have about 3,500 companies in Kansas that exported. And then, reason, there can be so many reasons why you want to export, but the key for you is there are more customers overseas. There are a lot of them. So you have the opportunity to expand. You have the opportunity to diversify. And then, you can gauge what does the competition look like, what's happening in the market to help you better position yourself. For our newer companies who's new to export, again, when you think about exporting, it's very exciting. Once you get started, after you have the first success, second success, you want to focus more, grow it bigger. And that's when I think you should really, question yourself. Do you have the capacity to ramp up the production to meet the demands? Number one. Number two, what makes you successful overseas? The global market is very, very competitive. Once you step outside the US, you're competing against companies from all over the world, not just your neighbors in the US or your neighbors in Canada. In Canada, you're competing against lots of Asian companies. So you have to understand what set you apart. So typically you can be a leader in technology. Let's say I have the best technology, nobody can reach my level, then great, you can compete on technology. And sometimes I see lots of companies compete on quality, especially from the US. I remember one time I met with a company, their product cost 10 times more than their competitors from overseas. And the price is 10 times more, it also lasts 10 times longer. So for a client, that's attractive. That means less downtime for them. I only replace it once instead of 10 times, and think about all the savings. So if you compete on quality, that's great. And then you can also compete on pricing. That is typically hard for US companies to compete on price because our labor cost is high. Relatively high when you compare our labor costs with some of the other countries. So competing on price is not very common, but can be done. And then the last one is competing on your response time. So let's say you have an overseas customer who needs 100 or 200 of your product within the next week. Can you deliver? And that again is similar to competing on price, not commonly done here. But it can be if you have the flexibility. So I would say if you are a new company looking to export, making to a larger operation, probably competing on technology, competing on quality is where you're gonna find your core strength. But it's important for you to understand what set you apart before you decide to put more resources into this game. All right, let's move on to the next page. Export promotion programs. Okay, so this is the free money I was talking about. Now, if you forget all the names, there's gonna be lots of acronyms. It's okay, don't worry about it. Just remember, you can always reach out to us, or have your client reach out to us. Now, if there's anything you want to do where you think your client may want to do, but not reflected by one of these programs, still reach out. Let us see if there's a way we can makes it flexible. We'll put you under a different program. So here is a brief overview, and in the other slides I'll give you all the details on each of these programs. So the first one, Kansas Exporter Roundtable, under our export side, we have a team of probably 3-4 people. They have been traveling around the state, holding roundtable discussions, just like what we have here, but completely geared toward exporting. You know, if you're interested to hear more, let us know. I can put you in touch with them, so you can attend some of their upcoming events. So they will go out to the communities, talk about what we can offer, and understand what companies are looking for. Next one, K Globe, and then the third one, Step. I will talk more a little bit later. Certificate freestyle. Okay, then let's go down to the Mexico office. That's the second from the end. So the state of Kansas, we have a contracted office in Mexico City. Mexico is one of our largest trading partner. So there's a need for to have help local boots on the ground to help Kansas companies to export there. That's why we have that office. It's one of the longest serving office for Kansas. We have had it for almost 20 years now. Now that the purpose of that office is to help Kansas companies to export. And what can they do? They can help you with market research. They can help you with business partner search. Now, business partner means importers, resellers, distributors. So if you have a company, you know, they think their product might be great for the Mexican market, and we can ask our Mexico office to conduct the initial review to see if that's the case. If they want to sell to Mexico, they don't know how to price it, we can have our Mexico office do some pricing study. And then, you know, we can help you to find distributors, resellers, importers. How is that done? So our Mexico office has been there for many years, and they have a very good network. Any given NAICS code, they can probably find 300 companies under that NAICS. So once they have the 300 companies, they will review each of them and understand what your needs are, and then compare that with the 300 company, what they can offer. And typically from 300, they can shrink it down to 30. So once they get to the 30 companies, they will reach out to them personally, either through calls, emails, or in-person visit. And they will tell them, hey, we have a Kansas companies here. They're interested in exporting to Mexico and finding distributors. I mean, would you have any interest in talking to them? So typically from 30 companies, we will have probably 3 to 5 say yes, we would like to communicate with them to talk about all the details. So at that point, we'll put a report together for you. It's probably 3 to 5 pages because I can't read more than that. The first page or two is a market briefing on the Mexican market, and then the rest is a description of each of the partners we found, and we will help you with the initial introduction, with the initial communication, and then we leave the discussion to you, the business discussion to you. If language is a barrier, then we're certainly happy to jump in and help with you. Now it's a great service, and it's actually free to Kansas companies. Your tax dollar already paid for it. To qualify for it, you have to be a registered company in Kansas. Typically, that's not a problem. Sometimes I'll have companies from Missouri, from Oklahoma asking me, no, too bad, you know, you're not in our state, so we can't help you. And once in a while, I will have a pass-through entity in Kansas. So it's a real operation, but all the tax and everything goes through the owner's personal tax reporting, not a business tax reporting. Therefore, they don't have a business registration with Kansas. If that's the case, that's fine. We will just have to do a little bit of more background checking to make sure you do have employees in Kansas. And your product has to be made in Kansas or value added in Kansas. Once you can check off all those boxes, this program is completely free to you. It costs us a couple of thousand, but there's absolutely no out-of-pocket cost to qualify Kansas companies. And I think if this is the one thing you walk away, great. You know, if you know somebody who has great potential in Mexico or is currently looking at Mexico, this is a great resource. All right, now let's dive into the programs in details. So the first one, we are a government agency, so we love to come up with lots of acronyms and make it very confusing. So in the past, we had two programs. One is called KITSAP, that stands for Kansas International Trade Show Assistance Program. And the second one is KITMAP, Kansas International Trade Marketing Assistant Program. And it's getting confusing. I'm confused every day. So eventually we decided to combine those two together, and we're gonna call it K-Globe. And I'm sure there's a way to explain K-Globe, but I can tell you K is probably Kansas, G is for global, and I don't know what the rest stands for, but that's not important. What you need to remember is under the K-Globe program, we can give a qualified company up to $10,000 per state fiscal year. So that's from July 1st to June 30th. So up to $10,000 per state fiscal year to conduct eligible or qualified export activities. Now, down below, I listed 5 examples. These are eligible export activities. For example, trade show expenses. That means your registration, your booth rental. If you need to ship promotional material or samples back and forth, that will qualify. Overseas travel, your airfare will qualify for that. And then your hotel stay will qualify for it. International focused marketing material. Let's say I need to develop a new flyer for a Spanish speaking market or for the Japanese speaking market. We can help you to pay for the design part, but we cannot pay for the printing process. If you need to have a new website put together in a different language, this program can cover that as well. Translation, that's very self-explanatory. It can be on paper, it can be or interpretation at a trade show. And the overseas consultant fee. This is more on the market entry, so looking for resellers, importers, distributors. We only have an office in Mexico right now. We do have an office in Japan and then in Germany, but those two are purely focused on foreign direct investment attraction, not export. So whenever there's no state office, your options are you can go through the U.S. Commercial Service. I'll talk about that later. Or you can use private consultants. And the cost with private consultants, it may be higher, but this program can help you offset some of that cost. And there are more. These are just examples. That's why I encourage you, if there's something you want to do, even if you don't see it on the list, reach out to us and we can tell you if that's something we can cover. So it's up to $10,000 per year. Now, for each activity, this is important to remember, we can provide 50% of your cost, and then the company is still responsible for the other 50%. We want to make sure they have some skin in the game. So up to 50% per activity and up to $10,000 per year. Under the trade show part, I know that sounds very exciting, but you have to remember they have to exhibit at the trade show. They can't just walk it. So they have to have a booth. And this covers international foreign trade shows, so trade shows hosted overseas. All right, I'm sure there are more details I can share, but let's not get you confused. Again, if you think something is interesting, reach out to us. All right, let's move on to the next program. It's the State Trade Expansion Program, STEP. Now, if we have anybody from the SBA on the call, thank you for the money. I manage our STEP program. This is a state and federal program. So federal government provides 75% of the funding, and the state side, we provide 25% of the matching. This is where the money comes from. The program is administered by the SBA, Small Business Administration. Every year, all 50 states plus territories, we have to compete to tell the SBA what we want to do with the money. So that means every year our program offering are different. And that's probably based on previous year's usage. So let's say in year one, we offered money on certain trade shows and nobody's using it. In year two, we're not going to do that. We're going to shift that money into something else more popular. So if there's something you want to do now, my recommendation is don't wait, apply, because we can't guarantee that we'll be there next year. And this is not a entitlement program. It's again all 50 states plus territory. We have to compete every year to get funded based on our proposal. And this program follows the federal fiscal year, which is slightly different from the state fiscal year. Federal fiscal year starts on October 1st. It ends on September 30th. So a couple of months later than the state one. Right now, we're at the end of the current cycle. Unfortunately, we have used up all the money, so there's nothing to go around right now. But our next round starts on October 1st. So I would encourage you to check back with us on October 1st for future programs. To qualify for this one, number one, you have to be a small business, small medium-sized company under the SBA's definition, and there are different ways you can get qualified. You can qualify by number of employees, you can qualify by annual revenue, and there's also a alternative calculation. If you're not sure how to do it, reach out to me. I can put you in touch with our SBA contact, and they can help you make a determination. So you have to be a small, medium-sized company. You have to be a registered business in Kansas, and manufacturing in Kansas or value-added tasks in Kansas. And then the next one is you cannot be in trouble with any federal agencies. So in my past experience, sometimes a company may own some back taxes to the IRS. That would disqualify you. I had one company out of the entire step cycle. They borrowed SBA loan and defaulted on it 20 years ago, and that showed up in SBA system, so that would disqualify you. Other than those, the third one is if you're in trouble with the FBI. Luckily, I haven't had anybody in trouble, but those are the only three. So typically it's IRS, SBA loans, and any of the security agencies. If you can say, I don't have any issues, then you're more than likely will qualify for the program. We do ask you to apply before you conduct the activity. So let's talk about the activities. What can we cover? Under the STAT program, we cover 3 different groups. The first one is called export training. So any export themed training activities, it can be hosted by anybody. We can provide more than likely 100% of the training cost. This has to be, you're sending your company employees to a training session, attending a training course somewhere. This does not cover you as a single company hiring instructor coming in to educate your workforce, because we're trying to make sure money is spread around. So we can't fund company specific training, but you have to send your employees to a training session. So that's the training piece. The second piece is trade shows and trade missions. Now, typically the trade show we fund are the air shows, Farnborough Air Show in the UK and Paris Air Show in France, because we're a big aviation state. So those are the 2 stable shows that we go pretty much every year. And the other trade shows, we're open to any trade shows you want to attend. Different from the K-Globe program I mentioned earlier, that one you have to exhibit. Under the STAT program, you do not have to exhibit. You can just simply walk the show. And we can help you to cover the registration cost, and we can help you to cover the airfare cost. Now, between the STAT program and the K-Globe program I mentioned, they are mutually exclusive. So if you take one, you can take from the other. Again, we're just trying to spread the money and make sure all the companies who has the desire we can help as many as possible. That's why these two are mutually exclusive. Um, a little secret, I think, money-wise, you get more from the STEP program. The K Globe is up to 50% under the STEP program. We don't have a set threshold. The reason is because we have to compete every year, and one thing the SBA focus on is your utilization rate. How much money have you used? So our goal is to use 100% of it. So depending on how many companies are applying, how much we have some flexibility on how much we can provide. So, if for anything you want to do under 5,000, more than likely we will fund 100% of it. If it's, under 10,000, probably 75% of it. Over 10,000, we'll have to talk about it. And I think, every year we have to tell the SBA what's the maximum we can give a single company. I can't really recall the exact figure, but I think it's somewhere around 30 to 35,000. And based on our past experience, it is not very possible for a company to use that much. They just don't, they won't have the time to conduct that many activities per year. So this is the trade showpiece. Trade mission is you can attend federal trade mission or state trade missions. That's a group going to a foreign country, meet with potential business partners. There are two types of trade missions. You have industry specific or country specific. So for a country specific trade mission, it works well for two type of companies. The first one is you have specific issues with that country. Let's say you have been exporting to Brazil, but every time the customs is stopping your goods and asking you for additional paperwork or additional fees, and you want to know why. So if we have a trade mission going to Brazil, we can connect you with the folks down there. So typically, a state trade mission is led by a higher level elected official. With their presence, we can open up more doors. So it's likely we can put you in touch with the other side and you can figure out your issue. The second type company who can benefit from this are companies who has idea, this is the market I want to get into, but I don't have any firsthand experience. So this will be a good window for you to see what does that market look like? What is it? How is it to export there? Who are my potential local partners? So this is the country-specific mission. Industry-specific mission is very, very self-explanatory. For example, a Kansas aviation delegation going somewhere, or a Kansas pet food manufacturing delegation. So that's more industry-specific. So that's the second one, trade mission, trade shows. The third group STEP can provide is called market entry support. It's basically we can pay for anything that U.S. commercial service does. Wherever you see a U.S. embassy or a U.S. consulate, there's going to be someone working there from the U.S. commercial service. So I'm at the state level, they're at the federal level, they're my counterpart over there. And their goal is to help promote U.S. companies' interest overseas. In this case, will be Kansas companies' interest overseas. And they can help companies with market research, market study. They can help companies to find business partners, exactly the same as what our Mexico office does. But this is worldwide. Anywhere you see an embassy or consulate, they have the capability to do this. Typically, the service they offer, they normally start with something called initial market check. That one costs 300-ish. STEP will cover that 100%. Let's say you always want to export, let's say, luxury yacht to Mongolia, and you contact commercial service, they will tell you that's probably not a good market because we don't have a lot of water. Look somewhere else. That's called initial market check. Or they may come back and surprise you. Yes, this is a great place. Let's move on to the next step. Now, typically, next step is called international partner search. That one is similar to what our Mexico office does. They will do a market scan, find distributors, importers, resellers, and give you a report. You don't have to visit the market. The communication is purely up to you. And that one is probably $700, and you don't have to pay the full 700, you pay the difference. So you pay 300 first, you pay 400 to make up the difference. And let's say, you communicated with a couple of them and you felt one or two really jump out to you, you think they can be a good partner, then the next step from there is called a gold key search or gold key matching service. The commercial service will put a agenda for you together, schedule meetings for you, and you have to travel to the market and meet with those companies. The cost for that is anywhere from 900 and up, depending on the company size, how big you are, and how many times you have used the service. And again, you pay the increments, and all of these can be 100% reimbursed by our STAT program. So you do have some out-of-pocket costs initially, and then we refund you 100%. So that's what STAT program can do. Three things: export training, trade shows and missions, and then market entry support. Again, it follows the federal fiscal year, October 1st to September 30th. Lots of info. Again, if you forget everything I said, just remember to reach out to us. This is our STAT program. Next one, certificate of free sale. So if your product cannot be consumed by human, you're more than likely you don't need this. But if you're making non-food related personal hygiene product, for example, soap, shampoo, any of those, yes, you may need a certificate of free sale. This is for the importing country to know whatever they're importing, we're trying to sell is freely and legally sold in the US. So we're not trying to send them something we wouldn't use here. This one we do charge $20. We aim to please, so we keep our price low, $20. Probably take a day or two to produce a certificate of free sale for you. Once you have that certificate, you can present it to the importing customs or your freight forwarding companies to fulfill the documentation requirements. All right, next one, international credit report. Well, I'm assuming most companies who sells overseas would like to get paid at some point. So this is similar to a personal credit report, but also a little bit different. This is for Kansas sellers to get a snapshot on their foreign buyers' current standing at the point when the report is pulled. So it will give you some financial information, legal information. There are only two groups in the country can do this. One is Keller Group, at least under the third points, and the other one is the U.S. government, the U.S. Commercial Service, and both of them use the same source, which is U.S. Customs, and we collect all the information through U.S. Customs, and then everybody packaged the product a little bit differently. The commercial service one, it can be covered by our STAT program, or you can use our own international credit report. And here's the difference: ours come back 12 business days is the longest. The fastest is 3 business days. The commercial service one come back in 8 weeks. The commercial service is 800, but we can cover all of it. Our own program is anywhere between, well, this one, the one we run, is anywhere between 165 to 305. So I guess you pay a little bit more to get it back faster. And then the other difference is with commercial service report, in the end, it does not give you a specific number. It will say we recommend you to do business with the company, or we do not recommend you to do business with the company. With our report, we actually give you a dollar figure. We will say we recommend a line of credit up to 20,000, 30,000, 50,000, or we will say, we recommend cash in advance. That's typically not a good sign. So depending on your risk appetite, depending on your capacity, you can decide which one to go with. Between the two, our own program is actually more popular. Yes, we can cover it, but if you choose the 12 business days, only 165, and then you get a dollar figure recommendation in the end. So if you're a smaller firm without the capability of conducting your own market intelligence collection, these provides you a guardrail. That's why this one's popular. All right. Next one, Export Kansas. We put coming soon there. This one's coming up sometimes in fall. So this will be a new pilot program targeting new exporters. I guess new beginning non-exporters. So we'll have a dedicated staff to help you identify a market first. And then once the market is identified, we will provide market research on 5 countries. And then you pick out one, we will provide business partner search on that market. And there is a cost associated with this program, and it's not refundable through any of our programs because sometimes it's a little bit silly to charge you and then cover it with another program. So this one, we're really trying to find companies who want to be committed in the export arena, but it's new to the game. If you have anyone in this boat, let us know. I think an ideal candidate would be someone has a very solid foundation, at least in the U.S. market. They have product they're selling. They have been in business for a couple of years. Now they're at a point where they can expand. I think those would be the type of ideal candidate. A non-ideal candidate would be somebody who purchased things off Alibaba or a different overseas website, have them shipped to the US, and then redistribute them either online to overseas customers through a bigger platform or their own website. We still commend their effort, but that does not qualify for made in Kansas, value added in Kansas. So in the end, it doesn't lead to much job creation for the state. So that may not be an ideal candidate. All right, now let's talk about the new division, global resources. The picture there that only except one person, nobody else is our team. It's just a picture that says Kansas. We decided to use it. So in a nutshell, what does global resource division do? The goal for that division basically covers 3 things. Number one is to create a ecosystem in the state for international business. And how do they do that? They do that through the increasing supply chain resilience, number one. Number two, workforce development. How do we get find more laborers in Kansas? And number three, expand partnership, expand network. For the state and also for companies. One example I can give you is Import-Export Bank, Exim Bank, EXIM, and that's actually a good resource for you. So now we're an official partner of the Exim Bank. So what can Exim Bank do? It is a bank, but it's also a U.S. government agency, and they provide loans not to our sellers, but to our sellers' buyers. So that means they provide loans to your company's foreign buyers. Let's say, you have a company you have been talking to in a different country for a couple of years. They're really interested in your product, but they never made a purchase. And the reason is because they don't have the money. They have to borrow a loan from their local banks. The interest rate is very high, so they're hesitant to make that move. Now that's where the Exim Bank comes in. They will provide loans to your foreign buyers directly to purchase your product. And typically the interest rate the U.S. Import-Export Bank can provide is much lower than what your foreign buyer can find in the local market. So this is a great tool. Lots of companies don't know this exists. Again, the U.S. government will provide loan to your foreign buyer directly. It's similar to SBA loan. Well, when I said directly, that's debatable. So the Exim Bank will provide the guarantee, and then they will work with the local bank to facilitate the transaction. but you get the idea. All right, now under the global resources, here are some of the things, programs and service we can provide. Webinars just like this. There are a couple of them coming up. All of these is on our website. You can go onto the site and look up the calendar and see what's coming up. Provide training, and then the supply chain survey. That survey is on our website. We're trying to understand, what type of companies we have in the state, what's important to you, what type of suppliers you're looking for. So if you have the time, please complete the survey. The bigger the data point, the more accurate our understanding will be. So I would love to have more companies doing that. Newsletters, blog posts, that's, you can sign up through our website. You can get weekly updates. You can get newsletter to have a better understanding from the export side, what's happening in Kansas, what's happening globally. And then the last two, global holiday market and global cuisine and culture week. This is really just to it's cultural event. It's well, here, let's just jump to the page. I think seasonal decoration is overrated. Since my wife is not at home, I can say that. In my ideal world, we'll have Halloween all year round. You just put different costumes on the skeleton to celebrate the different holidays. But anyway, December 14th, this will take place in Wichita. There'll be a couple of country represented at the Wichita event. You have food and drink and gifts. It's just a cultural exchange, again, fostering connections and relationships with different countries. And same as the Global Cuisine and Culture Week. I like food, so I'm in support of this. This one I think is taking place in Wichita as well, but I may be wrong. So my recommendation is go onto our website and take a look for the details. So that's it. Thank you again for your time. Now we talked about our international division, FDI, foreign direct investment attraction, export, and global resources. I spent most of my time on the export side. We mentioned a couple of programs, way we can help your clients or help you directly. No, just remember, reach out to us if there's anything you think we might be able to help. If you think one of our program may be applicable, please feel free to reach out. And I'll close this so I can see if there's any question in the chat. No, thank you so much.
Thank you,
Oh,
Lou.
yeah.
That was great.
Here's
There's
our
your
website,
contact.
and then
Yeah.
all
And
right.
I put it in the chat too. So if you can look at that, and I put the webinars in the chat too. There looks like a lot of great ones. We do have a question in the chat. Should we be concerned about the level of foreign ownership of Kansas businesses from a national security standpoint?
Well, that's a great question. There are two things can get me fired really fast. One is just talk about importing, and the other one is talking about politics. So the level of foreign ownerships. Um, let me put it this way. So before we recruit any companies to our state, we normally there are different checks we put in place. Now, on some of the unfriendly countries, there are certain requirements in place. Now, every country, some of even friendlier countries such as Japan, Canada, there's something called CFIUS review, and that's completed by the federal government. So there are different checkpoints in place, and that help us to safeguard who we bring in. So I hope that shed some light to your question.
Great. Any other questions? That was great. The message I got was contact you. There's lots and lots of opportunities.
Yes.
And yes,
No, we still have a couple of minutes left. I don't see anybody with additional questions. So I'm
Right.
assuming I confused everybody successfully today. Now, since Suzanne is on the call, Suzanne worked for the Department of Agriculture, and they have their own well, we export lots of agricultural commodities. So if you have a client in that industry, Suzanne will be a great contact. Suzanne, if you're here,
No,
if you want to
Suzanne
say
had to
something.
step out for another
Oh,
meeting.
oh, okay. Well, never
Yeah,
mind
but
then.
Russell Yarnell is here and he has a question. For someone looking to export, is there a guide or chart showing the people needed to export? Do you mean Russell, do you want to open your mic and ask? Is there a
There we
chart?
go.
There we go.
So I guess you have people that would book the export. There's people that would help you clear customs, all those various positions. It's quite in my past, it's been quite a few. Um, and I don't know who's necessary to the process and then
Okay,
which
I
ones
see
are
what
just
you're saying.
helpful.
Okay. Um, yes, well, yes and no. We don't really have a physical chart we put together, but through our team, we can definitely give you idea who you want to contact, or who you need to consider. So throughout the whole process, number one, you need to identify a market and find distributors. And that part we can help, the state can help, the federal government can help, where some private consultant can help that as well. So in my former life, I worked for a private consulting firm. So here's the landscape. Your cheapest one you go to is always your state level because it's typically free of charge, like our Mexico office. The second level you go to is a reputable university's business school, and they can normally run a market research project through a school, unable to hear.
I'm able to hear, so I'm not sure that it's on our
Okay.
side.
All right, we'll just continue. Everything is recorded. I apologize you're having difficulty. So hopefully, if you replay the recording. All right. Now the second level is University Business School. They can normally run it as a capstone class project, and that will more than likely you have to provide a scholarship opportunity, and every school is different. So your state level, your business school, I'm sorry, state level, federal level, the U.S. commercial service, everything I talked about, anywhere between 300 to 1,000, but everything is reimbursable through our grant program. And after that is your university business school class project. And after that, you can go to some of these, we call it trade facilitating companies, like World Trade Center, some of these um, uh, um, organizations where they don't really have research capabilities, but they subscribe to a bigger database. So you can pay them a smaller fee, and then they can collect data for you and run through a predetermined algorithm to show you who are the countries you need to go to. And then from there, next level will be your private consultants, and that can cost you as much as you want to pay. So previously, I worked for a company. One of our clients wanted to export to a certain market, and they're trying to export to the public sector in that market. They couldn't get into it. So the goal is to establish direct communication, and we did. We were able to put them directly in touch with the person they need to talk to, and the cost for that is 30,000. So the world is your oyster once you get to that point. But smaller companies, startups, I would say focus on state, federal, university. Now, so that's your first component, is looking for market. Next one is getting your product shipped. So that will be your freight forwarding companies. They're going to be your best friend. They can take care of all your paperwork if you don't have a dedicated person on staff to do all of those. So you got your stuff shipped. In between, you want to get paid. So you probably want to talk to your banks. You can require cash in advance, but that makes you very non-competitive. So one thing popular is letter of credit. That can be a 3-day discussion, but which I won't do. You know, you need to talk to your bank about how to secure a letter of credit. So that, you know, you get shipping part done, you get payment part done. So typically that's the few points we cover: finding market, ship your product, get paid. But there can be a lot more. For example, intellectual property right protection, cross-cultural communication, after-sale service. There's just a lot more after that. But initially, these will be the few. Again, we do have a expert guide I put together many years ago. I think it definitely needs some updating, and I'm sure once that's done, that'll be on our website, and we'll be more than happy to share that with you. In between, just reach out to us, and we can help you with all these steps. As I mentioned earlier, we aim to please, so all of our service, at least from us directly, is free of charge. And I hope that's helpful, Russell.
It
Thank you
sounds
so
like
much.
it sounds like Russell just illustrated the fact that we need to contact Lou. Thank you for that. Well, thank you, Lou. I really appreciate you stepping in for Laura today. And do we have any announcements that anybody else wants to make? If not, we have some K-State announcements. Our remote work series is ongoing, and it will happen next on, it always happens on the second Wednesday of the month. And I'm putting the website in the chat. It's the Remote Work Wednesday, the second Wednesday of every month. This month, it's going to be Remote Work and Building Culture with Brent O'Connor, the Director of Engineering at Canopy. Our K-State grant workshops are ongoing. We have now collected data from 33% of our participants who 1 year later, and they've written $52 million of successful grants to help their communities and their organizations. We have online classes, and if you're anywhere close to St. John, Kansas and Stafford County, we are doing one on September 27th in person. The cost is $60, the same as the online presentations. And at that presentation, we will have people from the Kansas Infrastructure Hub, from Kansas Rural Water Association, from Kansas Housing Corporation, to help you know, and Kansas Commerce, to help you know how to address their grants and to do well on their grants and to get more information. If there's an event that you think would be useful to our listeners, to our audience, why please send that to me at ksrecv@ksu.edu, and we'll be glad to share it. And if you'd like to promote these events to in your own newsletters, send me an email asking to do that, and we'll expand our market so that people know about these resources. Our next call is in October, is how USDA rural development can help your community. And Christy Davis, the director of Kansas USDA, will be the speaker. And one last thought for the day as we wrap up. Thank you again, Lou. The scariest moment is always just before you start. And that's by Stephen King, who should know what scary is. So the scariest moment is just before you start. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today, and have a great Kansas Friday.